Good morning, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
You are audible. Good morning, sir.
Okay, fine. Good morning, friends. And my name is Dr. TVK Gupta, and I'm from VNIT Nagpur. So I welcome you all for the first metal additive manufacturing workshop, which is sponsored by Atal Academy, AECT. And just to have a brief update on this workshop, we have about 110 participants in the workshop, and this will be we are going to have 3 sessions per week, per day, and total we'll have 14 sessions, and we have a small valedictory at the end of the workshop. Let me share. I have already shared the schedule of our the workshop, where today we will be having 3 sessions. The first session I will be taking, and the second session will be taken by Dr. Ramesh Singh. Let me share the schedule, then we can. Can you see the schedule? Is it visible? So the second session will be considered by Dr. Ramesh Singh from IIT Bombay, and after lunch we will be having one faculty from NIT Surathkal, Dr. Shrikant Bonta. So he will be talking about computational modeling of laser additive manufacturing process. These are the 3 sessions for today. Tomorrow we'll have 3 sessions. One from Dr. Deepa Srinivasan. She is heading the Pratt & Whitney in India, and followed by Professor Puneet Tandon. He's from IIIT Jabalpur, and post lunch we'll be having a lecture from one of our PhD scholar who is working on process parameters on geometry and microstructure of additive manufacturing components. On Wednesday, we will start the day with a session which is based on meditation and art of living by Dr. Trushar Gohil. He is from our VNIT and my colleague at in the Department of Mechanical Engineering. That will be followed by one of the PhD scholars. He will be talking about how you are going to do post-machining operations of freeform surface machining of AM components. He will be talking. And after lunch on the third day, we will be talking about the support structure characterization and optimization by Professor G.S. Kumar. He's from IIT Madras. The fourth day, the lectures or the sessions will start with in situ monitoring of metal additive manufacturing. This will be delivered by Professor K. Ravi from IIT Jodhpur, and that will be followed by microstructural properties correlation with additive manufacturing components by Rajesh Khatirkar. He is a faculty in the Department of Metallurgical Engineering in VNIT Nagpur. That will be after lunch. On the fourth day, we will be having a session on development of smart materials using additive manufacturing. And the fifth, that will be delivered by Shiva Sekhar from IIT Jammu. And the fifth day, there is a talk on biomedical applications, how these metal alloys can be used using additive manufacturing. That will be delivered by Professor Dr. A. Amar Patnaik from MNIT Jaipur. On the last day, last lecture will be delivered by one of our PhD scholars, where he worked on distortion and temperature monitoring in laser cladding by Mr. Nikhil Thavri. He's a research scholar at VNIT Nagpur, working with our group only. And we will have a small quiz on the last day post lunch. We will be having a small valedictory function, and that will be followed by quiz, and where I will be taking some of the feedback from the participants. And the quiz we are going to have for 20 minutes. Right? This is what, let me stop sharing this one. This is what the Atal Academy sponsored Metal Additive Manufacturing MAM 2021 at VNIT from 13th to 17th December, which will be, I hope you will be having a lot of interactions with the speakers. And I also request all the participants to actively post questions, and you can get a lot of answers from people who are working in various metal additive manufacturing in the country. And the other wish I what I want to inform you is that as per the rules of this workshop, all the sessions you have to be compulsorily attend. But if it is less than 80% attendance, 80% of the, you will be not given the certificate. And also, if you score less than 60% marks in the quiz, also the certificate will not be issued. So I request everyone to sincerely attend the lectures and also understand what people are saying. And based on this, these 5 days FDP only, I will be making a 20 questions. It will be through Google form, and 20 questions, 20 minutes, 20 marks. So that is what I used to take in, not only whether it is an online workshop, even if offline workshop, I used to do the same thing. So because of this online, we are restricting our sessions to only 3. Otherwise, our day used to start in the offline workshops. You can ask some of the participants who were there in the past at VNIT in the workshops. Our day used to start at morning 8 o'clock, and evening 8 o'clock it used to run. Continuously, you have to be in the workshop, and you have to do a lot of work. This is the first workshop where somebody is delivering and we are listening. But earlier I used to make a MATLAB based mechanical manufacturing and monitoring using MATLAB, where everyone will be using their laptops to have their work done. Actually, say everything, all the lectures will be based on MATLAB only. So they used to deliver lectures, and the students used to, not the students, participants. Anyway, if you are a participant, you are like a student only. So you used to do a lot of exercises using MATLAB. Right? So if you have any questions at any point of time, you try to write in the chat box initially, but end of the session, we will be having a 15 minutes discussion, because each lecture will be 1.5 hours. So 1 hour, 15 minutes, the speaker will going to deliver the talk, and 15 minutes you can pose the questions. Whether it is relevant to the topic or not, still you can ask actually, because most of the times what happens is that when you try to understand different process by different people, so their perspective might be different, which sometimes it will be useful for you also. Is it okay what I'm trying to say? So suppose if I talk about metal additive manufacturing, you might ask which is something related to polymers also, but still if I know, I'll be able to explain you also. Because additive manufacturing, when we talk, the process is same. Whether you are doing a powder, or you are doing a wire, or you are doing a polymer, or whatever. But this workshop, we are mainly concentrated on the metal additive manufacturing, where you are going to talk about only metal to make the components. I hope I am clear with everyone. And you don't have to make any attendance register, because we have an automatic system where the attendance will be generated automatically. At the end of the day, we will be knowing that who are present in the workshop. So sincerely, if you try to consider these type of workshops, and it will be very useful for you, either for your PhD scholars where you can guide, or if you are doing a PhD, you will get a lot of insight how you are going to work for your PhD. right? So with this a few words, let me start my first talk lecture. Let me just close this one. Can you see the screen, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir, we can hear.
Thank you. So the first the talk which I thought I will be sharing with you is on metal additive manufacturing. So firstly, when you consider the additive manufacturing is about 20 years back. I worked in additive manufacture about since 2001 only. But that additive manufacturing is something different. This additive manufacturing which I am going to talk will be something different. Right? So when I say this additive manufacturing means like earlier, these additive manufacturing people used to call it as rapid prototyping. They were not of the opinion that like they did not call as additive because there are two systems actually in many of your manufacturing process. One is additive and the other is subtractive. If you add material, then it will be additive manufacturing. If you subtract material, then it is something called as machining process actually, which everyone we know. Now, when people used to say the what we can say is that the rapid prototyping that time 20-25 years back when the process got established, especially for polymers, they were not making components which they can directly use as the end user. They're not being used directly to fit in a component and try and mix it. So what they used to do is that they used to understand that how the form or the structure or the how the strength of the component form, basically mostly they were related at that those times. It was only form checking actually. See the car body, they used to do a prototyping actually. So they didn't call it as additive manufacturing because that component is not directly used in the end product. So they are only just making prototype to understand whether whatever the component which you have designed is perfectly matching your requirements or not, right? So these prototyping, over a period of time, people thought that this technology can be used to make an end user component actually. So initially what they have done is that once you made a prototype, if you are satisfied, you go for a mold and they make for a mass production. Today, not exactly the mass production, but people are using the batch type productions where you can use these technologies to make your component actually. Yeah, I'll make it full screen actually. I have not started mails. Right. So today when we manufacturing, people talk about direct usage of the components. So when we have the direct usage of the components, no, that will be from the mold or whatever it is. Then you can make directly the component, fit it in the system. You can run the system. That is what this today everyone talk about additive manufacturing. So this workshop, as I told you, when we are trying to concentrate only on the metal additive manufacturing, we will talk about there are many metal additive manufacturing techniques, which I will not talk about the types of metal additive manufacturing because Professor Puneet Tandon from IITDM Jabalpur, he will talk about tomorrow what are the various technologies available to make a metal additive manufacturing more viable actually. And the other researchers will be talking about different metal additive manufacturing, what are the issues which they are facing, what are the advantages and what are the outcomes also they will be talking, right? He is talking. If you can mute the mic, that will be easy for the audience actually. Right. So the process in which we were understanding and we were making use as additive manufacturing is that the laser cladding process. You might have heard about laser cladding. Suppose if you see, you have a, what we can say is that a grinder in your home. Mixie, you will be having some shaft. On the shaft, it is going to rotate, no? Whatever is the impeller which you kept, and that tries to cut or churn or whatever it is. But the shaft, if you see, it got some damage. Because it's a small shaft, you can always replace it. The same shaft, you go for a shipbuilding industry. In the shipbuilding industry, if you see the shaft usually will be somewhere around 8 to 9 tons. So if there is a small crack, you cannot replace that the entire shaft because it is very expensive. So what people used to do in about 20-25 years back, even people are doing right now also. I'm telling the facts that even people talk about welding only. They don't talk about additive manufacturing, or they don't talk about surface engineering, or they don't talk about any deposition technique. They talk about only just welding, do machining, and do it. So what they were doing is they're just welding the component, and whether the component they are making to the perfect shape and they're using. But they are not concerned about when you are trying to use a welding process, how much heat you are going to give input to the component. When you are adding heat to any of the component, obviously that component will be subjected to some stresses. Whether it is a thermal stress or residual stress or fatigue, whatever it is, that it will not be able to sustain that. So the component which you have fabricated or made initially from the casted or a formed block, and you made a shaft, which is like a perfect solid component. Now, because it got what we can say is that defected, see, you are making that by a welding process and you are using the surface. But over a period of time, this will not sustain actually. The component which you have welded, what they do is that whatever is the defect which they have understood, it will be bigger defect. Still, they will do a welding operation of 2 months. So what happens is that though you are trying to increase the life of the component by addition of some of these welding techniques or the old conventional manufacturing techniques to increase the service life of the component, though you are using, but the efforts and the time and the money which you are spending to make the component to increase the service life, it is not that much. So the process in which we are right now working is a laser cladding process. So when we say laser cladding process, the term is there that laser. So laser means, again, in the welding also you are using heat. Here also you are going to use heat, but the heat is coming from a laser, right? So there, in the case of welding, what you are doing is that you will be having a welding and a very high amount of heat you are going to give input, and it is being distributed along the surface. So that means the surface which is surrounding whatever is the defect issues there, that is also getting subjected to some stresses actually. Now, cooling to that component to the room temperature, it takes a lot of time also. The moment you are going to cool the sub component to a room temperature with respect to some time, obviously there will be some amount of mechanical and the metallurgical properties of the component changes, right? So this process where I'm going to talk in the next for 1 hour, which we are going to use this laser cladding process, is one of the latest process where this process, as I told you, this process is not for additive manufacturing. 20 years back, they were talking about just to repair. Even repairing, people have, in the West, what happened is that they have shifted from welding to the metal or the laser cladding process for repairing. So what happens is that when you are using a laser, you are going to use at some concentrated point and you are going to deposit material and you are going to make
The
a
slide is not changing slide.
What is that? No, I'm in the first slide only still.
Yes, sir. Sure, sir. Sure.
Okay, fine. So what happens is that when you try to understand all these things, so then you are going to see what are the insights actually. Now it is okay. Second slide I went. First slide.
Yes, sir. Yes, yes. It is fine.
So now what happened is that laser cladding is nothing but an energy deposition technique. And today in the additive manufacturing industry or additive manufacturing family, this process, this direct energy deposition is one of the whatever we can say is that very high-end technologies where you are going to get promising results actually. So laser cladding is also such process where we talk about the direct energy deposition where you are going to use laser. So the moment you are going to use the laser, the powder will be coming from sides and you are going to fuse that powder. The powder, whatever you are going to use, like we will talk about the powder properties, and on the surface you are going to deposit it. You might have seen process like what we can say is that rapid prototyping fuse deposition modeling. What happens is that there you are going to have a wire, you are going to fuse that wire and it is going to deposit. FDM is a very now well-known technology across the globe. I hope everyone knows what is fuse deposition modeling. Now what happened is that after fuse deposition modeling, they were coming to about the selective laser melting. Selective laser melting. What happens is that there will be a powder which is going to be done, and this is that will be a powder bed process. In this process, it is not powder based. It is powder based only, but it is not powder fusion. It is directly the powder is being melted and it is being deposited on a parent material. So where you are going to fuse a powder with a very high power laser and you are going to make a very thin layer on the substrate or the parent material, such that what happens is that you will get a very good metallurgical bonding. And with a very less dilution, and whatever is the material which you are adding with the substrate, no, they get a very good metallurgical bonding, and you are going to have the coating material. Means whatever is the material which you are depositing and whatever the parent material which you are going to use, they are going to remain the same. The material properties are not going to change. But in the case of welding, it is not like that. The moment you are going to deposit some component on the parent material, it will try to change the material properties or the mechanical properties of the either the parent material or the weld rod also. So laser cladding, what happens is that it involves laser which melts the metallic powder and you form a very thin layer on the substrate. This forms a metallurgical bond. Now, in order to understand, now you see you are going to use powder, you are going to use laser, and you are going to use some sort of force also you are going to use. That means laser, the moment you are going to say laser and temperature, obviously the heat transfer is going to come into picture. Because of the heat transmission from one system to the other system, you are going to understand. Now, when you are saying that mechanical properties are also changing, that means there will be some amount of like von Mises stress criteria also will come into picture. Because when any component, if you see the stress strain curve after the deformation state, if you will not be, you will say that when you are trying to load the component with some amount of force, there will be deformation which is going to take place. Similarly, because you have a parent material, when you are depositing with high temperature, the material also deforms actually. This deformation is not because of the force with which it is being heated. It is because of the thermal deformation. This deformation also will incorporate some amount of plastic deformation, agree. But the temperature with which you are going to deposit, it is so high, but the time at which it is coming to the room temperature is also so high. It is a very rapid solidification process. The process in which laser cladding, which you are going to see, is a very, very fast solidification process. You just can't imagine in micro and microseconds only, the substrate is going to, with the layer, it gets solidified. So it will not induce any thermal stresses. Though there are thermal stresses, it will not induce that much, or the heat affected zone is very, very minimum. See, in our research, what we have done in the last 4.5 years, possibly 5 years, we are trying to understand this modeling part, simulation part, how you are going to do analysis, how you are going to do a monitoring of the systems. Those things we worked in the last 5 years, and we are quite comfortable with the process which we are working in. So as I told you, when I say that laser cladding, it is used elsewhere, they are using as additive manufacturing, but in our country, we have not started as an additive manufacturing. And we are the only people in the country where we tried to work using laser cladding for an additive manufacturing for metals. People using selective laser melting, people use lens component, lens process like they use. So they always use this DMLS, direct metal laser sintering process, which Professor G. Saravanan will be talking from IIT Madras on this process actually. Now, people might ask, actually in welding, you are going to use a rod. Here also, this laser cladding also started with wire only. But when you try to use wire and compare to the powder, this is much better process, which people have proved that powder-based processes are much better than the wire-based. Now, if you see there is a metallic powder and it will be like through a shielding gas, you will be having the powder is fed from the coaxially the powder is being fed and the laser is going to come from the middle and on the substrate when it is getting deposited, you will be going to get a clad. Right? Dr. Paramasivam, your speaker is on, your mic is on. Can you please mute it? Right. So if I want to use this laser cladding process as an additive, you have to do a lot of homework actually. Homework in the sense that whether when you are depositing layer by layer using a very high power or high wattage of power, whether it is getting adhered, each layer is having that adhesion strength or not. So we started working with single layer, double layer. Now we are gone up to 15 layers. Also, we are making this laser cladding. So when you say that additive manufacturing, if you want to use this process now, so what happens is that as I told, let me just show some small video how we are going to deposit it. Can you see the video? Is the video visible?
Yes, sir. It is visible.
It is visible.
Now, if you see, it all depends on the system which we are right now using the same system in our industry partner. So there it is rotating from the bottom. But if you try to use a prismatic component or a freeform component, the gun is going to move according to the shape which is being controlled by a robotic arm actually, right? Now you see, if the project which what we have got in the second project, we have to make sure that whether Inconel material, because now you see turbine blades, gas turbine blades, they're all made of Inconel material because it has the properties to sustain very high strength actually at high temperatures. It should not lose its properties actually. So the project what we are attempting is that whether Inconel component can be made by this laser cladding process or not. So we started working. I'll show you some of the results where we went up to 12 layers also. So there are very good results which we have obtained. Now, before coming to this laser cladding process of Inconel, we started with some of the hard alloys where you can increase the service life of the component by using some sort of deposition. Right? So we started with, okay, now when it comes to the process, what are the parameters which you are given a choice or you are given a freedom to change? If you see, these systems are very, very expensive systems. So a small 4 kilowatt machine, which we are right now, we are using the laser cladding process, it costs somewhere around 6 to 7 crores, all the setup. So the industry partner also will not be very much interested to change the parameters. Whatever the OEM says, whatever the component or the machine manufacturer says, they are going to strictly follow. So these people, even the person who has manufactured or who has designed the system, they were also working for the last 30 years. This came into commercial use only 10, 12 years back only. Even in India, we have only 3-4 systems. But in recent last 1 year, some 4-5 systems have come up in the country actually. So the chance what we were given is that we were allowed to, because as I told you, this is being an expensive, they're also not having much confidence whether. So, but we tried to build confidence with our industry partner and we tried to change some of the parameters. They were having a fixed parameters in their mind. And one thing is that whoever is the industry partner with us, they are also very innovative. They want to do a lot of experiments. They want to understand the process more on a research point of view. They are also interested, and that is the reason why they have contributed both financially and technically in the projects which we are right now we are undertaking. Now the laser power is one process parameter, powder feed rate, scan speed, deposition rate, what is the thickness. So these are the parameters which can be varied. So layer thickness varied means it all depends on the powder feed rate and how fast you are going to make. So you will be having a substrate. There will be a laser which is coming up. Powder will be coming coaxially from all the sides. The laser powder, when it comes, it heats it melts the powder and also simultaneously it heats the substrate also such that these two gets mixed edge. The multiple is going to be formed. Now we started our journey with stellite 6, which is a cobalt-based stellite, where it is very tough material. So this can be done. This can be used at very high variant corrosion resistance environments. So before starting any of the experiments, we used to do the characterization whether the chemical composition of stellite 6 is there from according to the standards or not. Because stellite 6, there are many companies who supplies in the country. So whoever is the supplier and whoever we used to buy, first we used to characterize our powder, whether because powders might come in different forms. Actually, it can be spherical, it can be spheroidal also. It depends on what type of powder. Suppose if you consider the tungsten carbide will be like a triangular shape of components you are going to have. Right. So these are the components which we try to do through SEM and EDS analysis to understand what is the chemical composition. Even the manufacturer also will do the same thing, but we also get confirmation with them. Actually. Means like with our tests, we do our own tests actually. So this is the first set of experiments which we tried with our industry partner. What happened is that about once we went to that industry initially, and they were not into much, though they are not into changing the parameters I told, but they want to do some sort of research actually, because on the components what they have done, though they might have not, they might have seen, but they have ignored actually. In the substrate, when you are depositing, there is a small amount of distortion which we observe. If you see, it is not perfectly, though we have considered as a perfect plate we have done. And when we have deposited, there will be, because of the thermal deformation, the distortion we have seen on the substrate. So these things, first things we targeted that how we can reduce the distortion. So based on this one, we got about five different journal papers, and which people have appreciated our work in the country also. Because stellite 6 will be using a very high temperature, and this has to be used at a harsh temperature, harsh environment also. So this one, the distortion what the substrate is being because of the heat, that is not allowed actually. But what they used to do is that though distortion is coming, they used to do the machining process such that it will be coming to the perfect. So instead of reducing the efforts of post-processing operation, whether we can we not do any something which is more of an optimizing of the process. They have done the optimization also, but the optimization which they have done is like a superficial. They have done only 1 or 2 parameters, but we have done a detailed investigation for 3 years. And these parameters have been transferred to industry partner, which today the life of the component which they are making from 2 months to 8 months also. Some components they have gone up to 1 year also they have seen. Because a proper scientific and technically we have done all the analysis. So this is the first set of experiment we start. The machine which we are using is about 4 kilowatts. And 80% of the power generally they suggest to use, but we went up to 90% of the power. So we started with a low power 2.0 kilowatts and 3.2 kilowatts also we have done. We have done for single layer, multi-layer, single track, multi-tracks. Try to understand the phenomenon actually. These are the single tracks. If you see the multi-tracks is like, multi-tracks means 1, 2, 3, 4, and multi-layer means 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. So this 1, 2, 3, 4 multi-layers, we went up to 12 layers with the Inconel. That I'll be showing very soon. Now, the stellite 6 cladding, because they were using a very high, what we can say is that, high powers they are not using, because they are more worried about their system. High deposition rate they want, and faster movement also they want. Because every industry partner what they say that jitna jaldi kaam ho jayega utna acha de rahe for them. So what they used to do is that they used to complete the process at a very fast rate and high deposition rate. But that will not work. You are going to use high deposition rate and high scan speed also, because you should have enough time to fuse that material. And you will be seeing a lot of wastage, that there is no deposition. So that also we have asked them to do, and we have done a pure scientific analysis. And to understand these people, we took almost 6 months to convince them, but finally they got convinced in the first 6 months, and they have helped us a lot. Actually, we should thank the Srinath Engineering Industries, not for. So if you try to see the SEM of the laser cladding of stellite 6, this is alloyed zone. This if you see the clad zone. This is again alloyed zone if you see. But if you try to see at a very high powers, what we have observed is cracks actually. This is not allowed, because This is prone to happen because in the process itself, they are prone to happen cracks actually. So then again, we restarted our work where we try to optimize such that there should not be any cracks. So in order to avoid cracks, what used to say is that the thermal difference between the substrate and the clad we reduce actually. That how can you reduce? Basically, you can reduce by preheating the substrate, or you can change the parameters. That is what we have done. So in the next set, there were no cracks. This is one component we have done for mining industries. If you see this, these are the hard facing points actually. They used to do, these are all used in the, what you can say, the JCBs, no? Each tooth will be like some 30-40 kilos actually. And after a week, you see the teeth is like something. So we tried to understand that this teeth is becoming like this within a week. And it is very expensive. Each teeth is so expensive that you cannot afford to change every time. So what we have seen is that wherever there is a hard contact points now, what we done is that we try to face this, means like we have done some finishing operation, surface finishing, and we try to increase the surface life. So now today, every 6 months, or I think now they are going to 6 months. Initially, they were going for every 3 months now. Initially, they were doing only for a week or 10 days, they are changing. Now at least they are happy with this. Almost 600% time, they have increased the life of the component with this small amount of coating on the surface. Now, when we understand that there are various aspects in laser cladding, because heat is also involved, mechanical properties are changing, metallurgical, though they say that it will not change, but there will be some amount of change in the properties. So what are the aspects which we can work on as a research point of view? We thought that first is that you have to understand what process parameters are going to give effect on the microstructure, mechanical properties, those things we have to understand. So then we understood that the heating and cooling cycle and how the heat transfer is being taken place and what will be the melt pool shape and size, dynamic, solidification. And these are the aspects which we have targeted and which we worked, and we are successful also. So the issues, as I told you, the component distortion will be there. What is the characterization property? What are the mechanical, metallurgical properties, and what will be the thermal history? Those things we have targeted and we worked, and we were very much successful also. The first thing is that how to, okay, when you say the distortion, but how much is the distortion? How you are going to monitor? You need to have some sort of setup actually. So you need to have some sensors, you need to have, because distortion is happening because of the temperature. How you can reduce the temperature? You should know what amount of temperature the material is subjected to. It's not that power you are given 2 kilowatts means this temperature is not. Because it is a combination of your many parameters. So then we have made our own setup. So we have made our own fixtures, and one of our PhD scholars has worked for his PhD. So there he has worked with pyrometers and laser displacement sensor. So he will be talking about those things in the last lecture, the research point of view, what he has done in the last 3.5 years. Actually. So we have used laser displacement sensors, we have used pyrometers, we have used different what we can say fixtures actually, 2-3 fixtures we have done, and finally we have arrived at this fixture actually. Now the temperature, how you can monitor, you need to have a pyrometer. So bottom temperatures also we have generated, and there is a top pyrometer also we have used, where you are going to understand the melt pool of the melt pool. If you understand what is the temperature, then it is obvious. Now, over a period of time, we thought that why we are making only direct stellite 6 on stainless steel, we thought that instead, can we use some sort of a, what we can say is that, can we use a different material also, where you can increase the hardness of the component, and you can reduce the temperature difference such that the deformation also can be reduced. So what the student has done is that he has used a buffer layer concept. Buffer layer is like a sandwich. In between two sandwiches, you will be having one more layer. So that gives a better taste also. In this one, here also we have used Inconel 625, where between the stellite 6 and the stainless steel, we have made a sandwich material which is of Inconel 70. So there he has achieved 2 papers also in this work, and which the industry partner also right now he is doing the same thing for his components. Now you see the distortion. When I talk about distortion, this is like a longitudinal bow distortion which is happening. So now if you see the distortion which is happening, the sensor distortion also we got this. Means experimentally it is the same thing, and you are going to get the sensor also. So then we try to optimize, and this is the best possible thing which we could also understand. Now, different parameters we studied, if you try to see, these are the, because each layer got almost 16 tracks, right? And 2 layers, up to 2 layers we have worked. And next set is that we went up to 12 layers, that's a different part. So we started with cell X6, I told you, 2 layers we have done, and we are understanding that how the track temperature is being changed, how the layer temperature is also changed. Because temperature, it always leads to deformation, deformation leads to distortion. Then we tried with the temperature monitoring. So in order to monitor the temperature, we have used pyrometers. Before that, we thought that we will be using some sort of a simulation process where you can understand what is the process in which you are going to, so is going to vary across the surface. So this we have used COMSOL to understand the temperature distribution in the cladding process. So we have used a single pass heat transfer source to the material, and to measure the temperature data, we have done almost anywhere pyrometers we have, and the temperature through simulation we got, and whatever is the experimentally we got, and we tried to simulate it. Now, if you see, the laser is moving along this one, the temperature at a point is going to come something like. So this is the present model which we have used, and this is the model which was used by someone else in some 10, 12 years back. So now we are getting the same process actually. So this, whatever the simulation which we are doing, it is correct actually, which we have used a Gaussian power distribution actually. Now this is the Gaussian distribution I told actually. So this is the Gaussian distribution. The power profile is the Gaussian distribution, and you are going to see the temperature profile along the thickness, along the width, and also along the thickness. Now, if you see at each and every layer, each and every point, you can always see there is a temperature phenomenon which is happening. The temperature is being transferred to the substrate also. Now, if you see the substrate, even at this location, the temperature is somewhere around some 600, 700 degrees centigrade you are going to get in the substrate. So on the melt pool, you are going to get 1900 degrees centigrade. So this we try to simulate and also try to check whether we are getting with these parameters the same or not. So these are the temperatures approximately. We got some around 1897, I think 1847 degrees temperature. We got here at this point, and after this, like we have done simulation at different time steps. Now, if you try to see, this is the profile which people have done elsewhere, and this is the profile which we got the simulation. So more or less, it is going to be the same. Now, if you try to see the melt pool history, now there is a heating, there is a cooling, there is a melt pool lifetime, there is a solidification, because the moment you are going to deposit, it takes time to solidification. The solidification time also we should know. What is the undercooling? These are all monitored using our pyrometers. You see the temperature profile along this is the temperature which we got. This will be like a width. If you try to see, it is like at the middle point you are going to get, and at the temperature. So now if you try to say along the depth, depth will be somewhere. Now 1918, I told you, this goes 0 with respect to depth. Means like it is coming to your not 0, the room temperature. Now, if you see when the laser is moving, there is a distortion. You see how the component is distorting actually. So this we try to use using this laser displacement sensors I told you. So because the substrate which is there, it got deformed in the concave shape. After deposition, it goes like something like this. It is going like this, and after deposition, it will be a permanent deformation which you are going to see in the substrate. Right? So you will be having both expansion and also the contraction. Now, then we started with Inconel 718, which is the aerospace malloy, and which is of our more interested. Even the first student worked for Stellite 6 and also Inconel, because more or less they have the same thermomechanical properties. He tried to correlate the distortions and temperature comparing these two alloys. Now, again, as I told, we have done the powder characterization. This is a simple one, and we have done the phase analysis also to understand. This is all the metallurgical part. Now, as I told you, the process parameters role, you should be always having some information prior before doing an experiment actually. So, any point of time, the deposition quality it is being influenced by process parameters, I told you. So in order to achieve a best one process parameter set, you should be knowing it. So you have laser power, scanning speed, powder field, and we have developed a model, and output parameters what you are going to do. Because clad is nothing but deposition, which we are more interested in the geometry. Means leaving the metallurgical aspects also. So the geometry of the component is more important. So then we try to understand clad width, height, and penetration. So this is the set of experiments which we have done for Inconel 718. All 27 experiments we have executed, we have seen. So we kept a top pyrometer also to see the multiple temperature at the top side. Now if you see some of the components, some of the tracks were not being deposited properly because Inconel is a very high temperature alloy. That temperature or the power which we have used, that is not sufficient to melt the powder. So if you try to see some of the components, you see there you don't, if you see this is a perfect clad. But if you see this one, 60, it is not a perfect clad. This 30, you had some problems. Some 25 also some. Because it depends on that what type of power you are going to use. So these are the issues which we have understood in the initial set of experiments. Then what we have done is that we have optimized. We thought that low powers, if you want to do deposition, you should have a low scanning speed because you will have enough time to melt the powder and also the deposit. Now, if you try to see, this is these components, they're all single tracks. Then we went for multi tracks. So these are the, if you try to understand the physics now, you have a substrate, you have a deposit. This is like a clad. So how much material is going inside? So that we have to find out in terms of dilution, they call it actually, right? So the dilution has to be as minimum as possible, and it should have a good bonding strength also, right? So these are the samples if you try to see in Inconel. So we have done for what we can. So we have done for different layers. We have initially we went for 4 layers also. The more number of layers you are going to have, the more amount of problems you are going to face. But still, you can always achieve a better at more number of layers also in order to get a perfect component. But you have to do the optimization. Now, if you try to see all the 27 experiments, see, this was done by one of our PhD scholars. He will be talking more in detail about the process parameters optimization tomorrow afternoon. Now, you see, these again, I will not, I just shown you, but the more type of technicalities he will be talking tomorrow only. So there he was talking about the wetting angle, because this, if you see the theta, it is the wetting angle. So how much surface tension you are going to use, whether you are going to have a proper deposition or not, he is going to talk. Now, when I say that microstructure, when we say that mechanical microstructural properties are going to change, that means you have a different microstructure at different levels of deposition. So those things, like the samples where all the samples are done for microstructural evaluation, no? So how it is going to evolve, and this has been published in the materials today communication also, the microstructure evaluation for the STEL X6 and Inconel 718. So if you see this is the one, because this is a clad and this is a substrate. Now you have bottom, middle, top. So how you are going to see how the structures are being changed, because these are all like bonding. No, these are all structures only. How, what type of structure you are going to have in the bonding? Different structures you can be talking. Now, if you see the process parameters on the microstructure evolution, no, so you have to see that which process you will be having a better, what we can say is that like good solidification time and good cooling rate, those things it will be useful to understand. If you go, hello, yeah, Mr. Dr. Sambasivara, can you please mute your mic? Fine.
Yes,
so,
sir.
So the thermal gradient and the solidification rate now, if you try to understand that where you are going to get, what type of microstructure you are going to get, that has been clearly explained in this graph. So more details will be talked by Chaitanya. So these are the microstructure samples. If you see 1 to 9, how the structure is changing for various parameters. So now people were asking about this. This was done in the Arabian Journal. We got published. So there, people were asking, what is your dendrite arm spacing? How close you are having this spacing? So that day, again, he has done some sort of mathematical calculations also has been done. It's not that only microstructure and experiments. You have to do some sort of mathematical analysis. Analytical model has to be developed. Then only it will be having some sort of engineering appreciability. Now, the dendrite arm spacing, cooling rate, grain size, he measured and he has done some sort of analysis. So, effect of process parameters on the cooling rate, this he will be talking tomorrow. How the grain size is going to affect the cooling rate also, this is one of the case we were talking. Now, the solidification process, if you try to see, solidification of steels is something different. Solidification of nickel-based alloys is something different. If you see in the solidification of steels, now you will get only the whatever is the martensite, cementite, or pearlite, whatever is the structures if you are going to get in the like iron-based alloys. But in the case of a nickel-based alloys, there will be different phases which you are going to see. Like you have some sort of elements which are like niobium, molybdenum, titanium. So the solidification, if you see the 718, no, it starts with gamma dendrites and it is going to eject niobium in the liquid metal. So that is the first step. The stepwise, if you see, and finally when you are trying to do in the solidification, the some sort of phases, different forms of phases. If you are a metallurgical engineer, so you will be appreciating more actually. But as a mechanical engineer, what we are going to interested is that whether the shape which you are going to get is correct or not, whether the hardness which you are going to get is correct or not, whether the fatigue life of the component is better or not, those things are only you are going to be concentrating. So these are the elemental segregation what the research scholar has done. Means like they were talking about dendritic region, interdendritic region, how the segregation is happening in the 718 material edge. So this is the EDS analysis. He tried to map the elements, different elements using this. Means like how the distribution, element distribution is there in the structures. He tried to understand it. Now, micro hardness as a mechanical engineer, we should appreciate that because the micro hardness is one of the biggest one. Everyone will be interested as a mechanical point of view. So you say that though the amount of load which I am going to get, the deformation should not be there. Deformation should not be there means what? It should have high amount of resistivity. So the hardness of the component has to increase. So these are the micro. Now you see, this is the single layer, 2 layer, 3 layer. So 2 layer, 3 layer, 4 layer. So up to 4 layers, the first set of experiments when we have understood now. So you see A, B, C. So different A, you have the structure something like this. B, you have dendrite, interdendrite, and C will be like equiaxial. So the moment when you are coming from bottom to the top, the structure, the microstructure of Inconel 718 is changing. Actually. This is being seen in a 2 layer, 3 layer, and even in 4 layer also it is being the same. Now, when you see the hardness, no, so hardness you are going to see for different layers what will be the hardness you are going to see, means how the hardness is going to change. But not much variation in the case of hardness we have seen, but in the case of in different layers, what we understood that the microstructure is changing enormously. Right. So this is what, if you try to see the multi-layer cladding, which we started with the first set of experiments for multi-layer cladding. So based on the 27 experiments now that we have done, so and we considered one process, one parametric set. We thought that will be the best one, and for that one we have used for 2, 3, 4 layers. So 2 layer, 3 layer, 4 with the same set of experiments. Then without changing parameters, we have seen that how it is going to affect the microstructure and the mechanical properties. Right. So now the simulation, whatever you try to understand and you try to do the FEM simulation, no, you can do it in ANSYS, but COMSOL is a better version where you have all the modules integrated in different modules, and it is user friendly also. Right. You have to use different expressions if you want to use the distortion, the mechanical. You have to use, and if you want to use the temperature, then heat transfer analysis has to be done. So you have to couple two different sets, and you have to make the entire thing in a single form where because of the temperature distortion is happening, and because of the when you say the distortion because of the temperature, that means you are going to have a what you can say is that heat transfer module. But the distortion is a mechanical phenomenon, so you will be having a von Mises criteria. So you have to couple both this mechanical module and the heat transfer module in order to get the distortion. Also, the residual stresses also can be calculated, miscalculated from the software. And the same thing you can always do in experiments also. We have done some of the experiments for XRD, using XRD for residual stress from IIT Bombay. And we tried to see that whatever the residual stresses we have done through XRD and whatever the stresses which we got through simulation, almost 12 to 14% we are successful actually, only the error is. Now, if you see initially the temperature is, we have considered every component we have done preheating. Up to 200 degrees centigrade we have preheated, and then we have deposited, such that if you see in the distortion is to be as minimum as possible. In fact, in aerospace component, distortion is not at all allowed. They don't allow any distortion actually. So for that one, you need to do a lot of homework, and you have to optimize the parameters, huge number actually. Then only you will have minimum distortion, right? So now if you try to see, these are the various, once the laser goes like this, what is the temperature you are going to generate? So the temperature, if you see, within 10 seconds time, it will be having large amount of these things. Now, so if you see the parameters where we are talking about like the temperature and the multiple size, because if you see the multiple size is also important. If you remember in the starting also we were talking about, we have kept one pyrometer to understand the what is the multiple temperature. So the multiple size is also important. So the based on the multiple size, we have understood what are the parameters, how they are going to affect it. Means what is the size of the multiple and what is the temperature which you are going to generate. So this is some sort of which we were still trying to understand the interaction between a solid and liquid phenomenon in the metal additive manufacturing, particularly in the cladding, because the solid one is the one you are going to get the moment you are going to melt it will be in a liquid form actually. So those things we have to understand the what is the effect of Marangoni effect, whatever you see the simulation, how the fluid is being flown. So this you need to have an in-depth analysis. You have to do it actually. Now in the multi-layer cladding, means like initially we talked about single layer Stellite 6 and single layer Inconel, multi-layer Inconel we talked. So in the that we have done only for single tracks actually. But in this case we are going to talk about multi-tracks and multi-layer also. You see, for this Inconel 718, now if you try to see this figure now, this is a very bad deposition. So here the deposition is very poor actually, means that the power is not sufficient even if you are trying to do for a second layer also. So these are the second layer components, which we have done almost 75 mm and 2 layers actually. But this is Stellite 6. Stellite 6 we have already optimized the parameters. Now you have a perfect the morphology which we got, whatever we are going to look. If you see the cladding at low power, Stellite is a very good cladding. Inconel is insufficient. You see how you are going to have, because the proper heating or the melting of Inconel did not happen actually. If you see the substrate, the Stellite 262 the materials and substrate Inconel 2 alloys 2 layers we have deposited. So this is the first PhD scholar. He will be talking in detail tomorrow actually. Not tomorrow, in the last day. So we try to understand the dilution both by this geometrical analysis and also through the metallurgical analysis. So this you can get from your EDS. What is the densities of the various alloys which are being present, and you can always find out what is it. So any point of time, the dilution has to be as minimum as possible. Less than 5% is always preferable actually. So that we could achieve somewhere around in the Stellite 6, but in Inconel, still we are working actually. Sorry, this is Inconel 71810%. Now you see the microstructure of different components actually. This is for Stellite 6. This is for 7.8. So both we have like equiaxial structures actually. And columnar to equistructure, how it is going to change in the middle. At the end, if you try to see at the bottom, this is the equiaxial is at the top and columnar is at the bottom. So he tried to understand the microstructure also and also the temperature, and what the student has worked is for temperature, distortion and microstructure. These three properties we try to evaluate in terms of your online monitoring, in-process monitoring. Now the grain growth you can always see like from columnar microstructure, and there is a change in the columnar growth actually. So here also same happened actually if you try to do using an SL. So these is the dendrite matrix actually. So Stellite 6 is having one, and see how it is going to change. So this is the interface actually. At this interface, there is a small crack which we have observed at some point of time. These are the hardness values. Now, so when I say that distortion means that you are freely, all the experiments what I have talked is only the free movement actually. So because of the stresses, inbuilt stresses, it is getting deformed. Now what people are understanding is that whether you can clamp it and do it, that is also possible. So then we tried with different setups actually. One is that free distortion, a free movement, and one we have done a cantilever type, and the student has done for a fixed support. So which fixed supports you have done? This one you have done. So obviously you are going to have different types of deformation at the different locations, right? So if you see before cladding is something like this, during deposition you will have a concave and you will have a convex after deposition. So finally it comes to a whatever is the deposition, no, which I have told you, longitudinal bow of deposition you are going to see. Now, this is the latest set of experiments which we have done. He will be talking more, Chaitanya will be talking more tomorrow about these type of experiments. So we have gone up to, this is like 14 tracks. No, 14, yeah, 14 tracks, not 14. Yeah, 12
Sir, 12
tracks,
tracks, sir. 12 tracks and 10 layers.
And 10 layers.
Yes.
10 layers we have deposited. So this is very fine structures we got. So he will be talking about more about the tensile tests and what is the deformation, what is the what we can say is that what is the fatigue life. Those things we will be talking in tomorrow's class, tomorrow's session. So these with this whatever the research group whatever we have done, I have tried to explain you all these. Just 1 second. All these things. So these are the various fundings which we have received for this research, and this project is completed last year, where the Nikhil Thavri, our PhD scholar, worked on online monitoring and characterization of distortion in multi-layer classic laser cladding process. And there is one more PhD scholar, Chaitanya, and there is one Prayag also. So he is working on metal additive manufacturing of Inconel 718. So Nikhil Thavri has submitted the pre-submission, and we have almost 15-16 people in the research group where they were working on different aspects of this metal additive manufacturing. So that's all for this today's lecture. So let me go to home. Yes. So if you have any queries, you are welcome. Let me stop sharing this PPT. So we will have 15 minutes. We have time. We can discuss if you have any queries. I'm happy that almost 70 people were there actually.
Sir, can I ask one doubt, please?
Please, you are welcome.
Sir, regarding the performance wise, cladding process and welding process, let's say some arc welding deposition process.
Correct.
So what could be the basic difference? I mean, in terms of, performance wise,
When I
like
say
this
when
much
I say
percent is
performance
better,
means
this
that
much percent is.
the
Uh,
performance means is like what is the target
in,
you are
ter-
looking for? That you are looking for a
in
geometry.
terms of, a long life of the component,
Yes.
where it is
In the-
subjected to the several loads,
Correct.
like
So
that, sir.
if you consider even today people are working on welding techniques only. They were not able to understand, not able to appreciate this laser cladding process. First thing is that laser cladding is very expensive. Welding is cheap. First thing, and also the when you ask about when it is subjected to heavy loads, no welding, it's not definitely it will crack. It will crack. But there are theories which people have developed with laser cladding. The fatigue life of the component can be increased, and possibly in the next 6 months we are going to see some of the results from our side also. I hope I am
Sir,
clear, Dr. Sambasiva.
yeah, it's clear, sir. Is there any graphs you have in your research, like these are the conventional process, which is showing this is the declining curve about
No,
the
no, no, no.
performance
But
wise,
in the next 6 months we can expect the same.
and also, sir, SLS process or DMLS process, what could be
Yes.
the, I mean, drawbacks compared to
These
the
what happened?
laser
You see,
cladding?
SLS process or DMLS process, no, they are all powder bed process. Powder bed process. Powder
Right,
bed
sir.
fusion process. But ours is a powder deposition process.
Correct, sir.
I understand this SLS
Yeah.
process is about 40 years old, 50 years old.
Yes,
If
sir.
you understand, but only thing is that if you see in the SLS also or the DMLS, the laser power is not that much. And the adhesion strength between two layers is not as high as compared to laser cladding. I agree with laser cladding, you will not get a better finish. You will not get a proper the geometry that we can say. But with respect to the process parameters, if you change the system configuration, then you will have much better results than the SLS or DMLS. That is what we were expecting also.
So laser cladding, can we say it is a hybrid process because it is subtractive is also involved to get the surface finish at the
So
last?
surface finish, as I told you, no, surface finish is poor. I understand. I 100% I agree. You have to do some sort of post process. Even in SLS process also, if you make components, you have to do the post heat treatment process.
Yes, sir.
That is there. I agree. There are limitations of this process. I definitely agree.
And microstructure of laser cladded part, and maybe definitely if welding process conventional, that will be more better. But SLS wise, I think it is better, sir. Laser cladding is better than SLS.
Laser cladding, if you try to see in SLS compared to SLS process, here you see when I say in the laser cladding, the microstructure, I am not sure whether we are better or SLS is better. But strength point of view, cladding is better.
Correct, sir. Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Okay, sir. So this is Anand Runal from SSN Engineering College, Chennai.
Yeah. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. What type of laser is used for this laser cladding process?
We are using
Is it CO2?
fiber lasers. CO2.
Fiber. Okay. And the powder handling, any specific precautions we need to make?
Actually, this powder handling, we are using gravimetric powder feeder actually. Unicode powder feeder is based on gravity, the powder is being sucked.
Okay, but
But there are it's a latest automatic powder feeding system. It will not have even milligram difference also in the powder feeding. They are very so perfectly designed actually, Unicode.
No, but purity of the powders.
Purity of the powder feeder will not have any role actually. Purity of the powder, you have to decide what type of powder. So you have to do your own analysis.
No, how do you store the powders? Should it be in inert environment?
Any powder which we are using, it has a shelf life of 2 years.
2 years.
2 years is the shelf life. And it is always better that before starting or before using the powder for deposition, it is always better you just preheat it. It's just lightly you can heat such that there will not be any moisture. Because over a period of time, if you don't use the powder, no moisture might enter.
And oxidation of the powders, how do you take
That's
it?
why we are using before, in order to avoid oxidation only, we are using shielding gas argon.
That is during the process, but while
Yes.
storing it in the shelf before we use it,
That we have not,
but we don't,
we don't have any idea.
because that time also oxidation can happen, right?
Possible. That is the reason I told you, no, it is always better that you store in a perfect container such.
Container. Okay, sir. And the build platform, should we maintain it some temperature?
Build platform means like if you want to have the substrate, means I understand actually, means the substrate, if you can raise the temperature by 200 degrees centigrade, you will not find any cracks. And again, it all depends on that what material you are depositing. But whatever the materials, initially we have not done any preheating and we have deposited and we have understood cracks are formed.
Okay.
So
And
we try to preheat per 200 degrees centigrade.
And the stellite, etc., are already available in powder form in the market?
Powder form, it is there in the market, correct.
Market, okay. And any sort of, apart from machining, any other processing is required? Suppose we
No,
want to increase
right
the
now
fatigue strength.
machining is the only process which people are using. But we were thinking that if you are having a big component, if not machining, whether we can do some sort of post laser remelting. That is what we were trying to explore in the next research.
Like if I want to increase the fatigue life,
Particularly,
I want to
increase,
induce
you can do
compressive
some sort of
strength.
surface heat
Mm.
treatment or everything you have to do.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Sir, my question is, we are dealing with metals here. Our end product is metal. Okay. So there must be some shrinkage defects in that. So what is the dimensional accuracy we are getting here?
I am. Can you please repeat the question? You are asking what is the dimensional accuracy?
Yes. At what percentage we are getting dimensional accuracy?
No, that's what I told you. No, this is a very this process is what we can say is that though we cannot say as a nascent stage, but it is at an advanced stage only. Obviously, because the diameter of the laser is not less than 2 mm laser today it is very difficult because it requires very high precision actually. So there will be some amount of tolerances we have to give, but the tolerance is also not in terms of microns. It will be like a bulk only actually.
Thank you. That was my question.
Good morning, sir. You were talking about some powder feeding mechanism. What was exactly the name of that?
Powder
And,
feeding means like it is basically based on the pressure only the powder is being sucked at. You have to maintain some pressure, then the powder will be delivered like accordingly.
Okay. So
Actually,
what?
initially we were using this pressure based on now because of the gravity, gravimetric powder feeders are used.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Yes.
Sir, do you use any shielding gas along with the powders also?
We use argon shielding gas.
Okay, sir. Sir, it comes with powder only or with separate nozzle or there is any inlet?
No, we have shielding gas is used for carrying the powder and also during the deposition also.
Okay, sir. Sir, I have another doubt about the interlayer temperature between the multi-layers.
Correct.
Do you use any mechanism to maintain the same interlayer between each layer?
No, that we don't have any system to measure actually. But that is possible
sir.
if you have multiple pyrometers.
Okay,
But
sir.
actually, that the only issue is that how to place the pyrometer is also a big issue actually.
Yes.
Because layer thickness is
sir.
like 1 mm. 1 mm spot less than 1 mm spot diameter is required. So what people are doing is that you can use a thermal imaging camera.
Yes, sir.
So thermal imaging camera will be a good option actually.
Okay, sir.
Good
Sir,
morning,
what
sir.
about dwell time of? Hello.
What is that?
the dwell time of between the two layers, because sir, as we are moving towards the
See,
more
right,
number
right.
of layers.
So dwell time, what we have kept is like 20 seconds between layers. In some cases, 10
Okay,
seconds
sir.
also we made.
Okay, sir.
And one more, Dr. Saurabh Suman want to ask a question.
Good
from
morning,
NIT Mizoram. Good morning.
Yes, sir. The talk was really interesting. Sir, I am more interested in modeling part. Sir,
You more interested in
modeling part.
modeling part. Okay.
My first question is that the result which you have shown for the temperature result. So is
Correct.
the result like it is just that you have modeled the thermal source like laser heat source and that is ran simply on the plate surface, or that powder which you are melting that also has been modeled?
No, right now it is only the thermal source which is heating the substrate. You are going to get the temperature.
Okay, sir.
So but also the powder, along with the powder also we have made some results. While powder
Okay.
depositing also temperature, how you, but that I have not shown because the student is writing a paper actually.
Okay. Because then the result will be different, sir. Because
100%, I agree. Now, because some of the power is used to melt the powder also. But here also we have considered that 30% of the it is going waste and it is melting the powder also. We have considered some of the what we can say is that assumptions also.
okay, sir. And second question, sir, that for multi-layer cradling and that temperature, okay, that one person he already have asked also. Okay, sir. Okay, that was my question, that how you have modeled, but okay. I think there is one separate session is there for the modeling part.
Yeah, that we have a post lunch today only.
Okay, sir. Then I think my query will be cleared there also. Thank you, sir.
Possibly it should be.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Somebody has asked, there is one student, Ishant is asking, solid liquid interaction. We have just started, Ishant, we have just started working on the solid liquid interaction. Not much work has been done as on date. And other thing is that today 11 o'clock there is an all FDP's inauguration is there. Means all FDPs across the country, 40 Atal programs are being done and inauguration. Please join at 11 o'clock. I will be sharing you that YouTube link and please join in that YouTube link. Okay. And fortunately, our director is only the chief guest for this one. So please join. I will just share that link with you all people now. Okay. Fine. If you don't have any queries, I'll stop here because I have to go to the director's office for helping him because he will be talking today. I hope I request all the participants to take an active part in participating in the lectures and also have lot of query section that will be useful for you also. Thank you. So I'll stop here. Okay then. Thank you everyone. And 11:30 again, maybe 5-10 minutes might happen here and there, but 11:30 we'll try to have with Dr. Ramesh Singh, IIT Bombay. Okay then. Bye. Till then, bye. Have a nice day.